Valentina Shevchenko's defended her flyweight title 7 times in a row. Her last one, the toughest test at UFC 275. She beats Taila Santos in the matchup. She's gone away. She always trains at a gym that's not a home gym, and this time she's training out of Japan, getting ready for Alexa Grasso out of Mexico. Lobo Gym MMA Gym's own Grasso. And for Grasso, it's been a weird run in the UFC. We've seen some really high peaks. We've seen a couple of valleys on the way. Her last loss, a majority decision to Carla Esparza about 3.5 years ago. But the win streak, Jiyeon Kim, she's able to beat Macy Barber. She's able to beat Joanne Wood. And her last time out in a main event back in October, beat Viviane Araujo. Grasso finally starting to hit that peak that a lot of people had for her coming into the UFC all of those years ago, where Shevchenko now, a few weeks away from her 35th birthday, is she on the decline? We'll see how it plays out. But a big-time matchup in this women's flyweight division. Little bit of a surprise that this is the title fight that they went with, because Grasso had a great win in a main event. That has to be said. And Viviane Araujo was a tough test, and it was a really close fight. We've had some fighters that have had higher highs and bigger finishes, thinking of Manon Fiorot, but a deserved shot and a new opportunity, not the same old.
And like you said, Grasso has been on a very nice run in her career, but I do agree with what you just said. I think Santos, Blanchfield, Fiorot, and I know you can't really say Blanchfield because her biggest win was so recently.
And this title fight was already booked.
Exactly, so that one doesn't really count, but still, Fiorot, I would agree, is a little bit more deserving, but still, for Grasso, I think she can have success in this match, because I've been saying this every time we brought up a real flyweight contender for the last 6 months now. It's, hey, I think Shevchenko's still a very skilled fighter, she's still very athletic, but I do think we are starting to see her decline a little bit. Now, is she still able to switch it up on her opponents, go for the wrestling when they're a great striker, be able to outstrike them when they're a great wrestler? Yes, she has been able to, but her opponents are starting to become a lot more well-rounded now that she has been at the top for so long. Like, Ronda Rousey is this, but of course she was from a very different era. It was, hey, everybody else is now starting to catch up to you because, to your credit, you were able to set the bar so high. And for Shevchenko, at one point she was thought of as the #1 pound-for-pound women's fighter in the world. I know Amanda Nunes had beat her twice, but still, Shevchenko was thought of as, hey, if they ever have a third fight, there's a good chance she'd be able to win that one. But this is what I keep on falling back to with this matchup. And it's not me taking anything away from Alexa Grasso. If you look at who her recent wins are over, it's the people who have been at weird stages of their career. Like, the Wood win isn't over Joanne Calderwood. Like, Joanne Calderwood was a really good fighter. Wood hasn't been on the best run of her career. And for Grasso, the lack of takedown defense does concern me, and the lack of ability to get back up to her feet, because the one thing Grasso does that I don't look at as a positive whatsoever, she's not a poor grappler, but she tries to get offensive with some of her strikes off of her back in the full guard position, and I think a lot of that energy should be spent getting back up to her feet, because she'll give up a lot of time from that spot.
Now, net positive, Grasso beating Wood. First career submission win. First one in the UFC that we get to see. So you do like to see that out of Grasso. For Shevchenko, it's weird because you talk like peaks and valleys. You look at, let's say that the Santos win was a valley. I mean, there were a lot of people that were vocal that they thought that Santos won. There were a lot of people that were less vocal that thought that Shevchenko won. You look at it, she beats Lauren Murphy and decimates her. Before that, she finishes Jessica Andrade. She beats Jennifer Maia. Now, Maia won one round, and she was able to out-grapple Shevchenko. But Shevchenko looked good in that one with the striking, and she finished Caitlin Chookagian before that. And I can go through all of these fights, and I can break them down minute by minute, strike for strike, and talk about all the strengths and the weaknesses. But what I've seen out of Valentina Shevchenko, not necessarily the Taila Santos fight, but even of late, as champ, offensively taking these women down and having a lot of success with that. And to me, I see that in a fight against Grasso. Now, Grasso, to her credit, has gotten better. She's gotten better as a grappler. We've seen that in these fights. And I think that the work that she gets here and there with somebody like Lupita Godinez, that's going to help her out in fights of this ilk, of this stature. Somebody who can wrestle like that well in MMA fights. But in this one, Grasso's going to have to put up a lot of volume with her boxing against somebody like Shevchenko, and I think Shevchenko utilizes her kicks a lot better on the outside than somebody like Grasso, and that's why I think that Shevchenko can win outside of even the grappling.
Not that Godinez isn't good, but that's like saying Malachi Flynn's getting ready to play like against Steph Curry. Like, Valentina Shevchenko is one of the great fighters of all time. She really is. Like, she's only lost to Amanda Nunes.
If you don't have anything good to say, don't say it at all.
I just said she's one of the great fighters of all time.
I compared Lupita Godinez to Malachi Flynn. Lupita Godinez fights. Malachi wears the tracksuit.
She's not getting you ready for Valentina Shevchenko on a one-on-one level. I just said Dustin Poirier could get Garbrandt ready for Jalen Turner, and you push back on that. Poirier's one of the best fighters in the world. Like, Godinez has some of the skills that Valentina does, but the thing I agree with you is Shevchenko has gone for a lot more takedowns at this stage of her career. At 125, she has a massive physical strength advantage over a lot of her opponents that she didn't possess at 135. But the fight that always impressed me the most out of Shevchenko was the Holly Holm fight. She did body-to-body takedowns on Holly Holm, who is a significantly bigger fighter than her, and just completely outmuscled her for a lot of that fight. Now, is it a fun fight to rewatch? Not at all. It's very boring. It's a lot of top control, but it proves just how physically strong a fighter like Shevchenko is. And even if speed-wise she isn't at her best at this stage of her career, I still think she can go back to that well of her grappling and have a lot of success with the top position.
You mentioned it earlier, at least the fighter was mentioned earlier on in this card, but I wonder if Shevchenko goes over to Japan. She comes out like a catch wrestler with a little bit of pancreation. She's looking like an old-timey Ken Shamrock in a matchup like this. I can't wait to see it, Matt. No surprise, but both of us going with Bullet Valentina Shevchenko. Great opportunity for Alexa Grasso in this one. Technical boxing, recent submission win for her. Kind of switched things up. She's looked good at 125, but both of us in agreement with the champion to remain the champion. And in the main event, Matt, there is no champion. There's a former interim champ
fight,
at heavyweight with Cyril Gane. There's the light heavyweight GOAT, maybe all of MMA's GOAT. You let us know about that one. Keep it going down in the comment section. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, as we always say.
Let's get into it.